Hey everybody! In this month's My Monthly Hero Kit video, I'm going to show you all the fall goodness that they have to offer this month. As you know, I love fall and Halloween the most for stamping, but I did sneak in a Christmas card. So here's what the main kit looks like. It has this gorgeous bouquet of flowers in a vase. Matching dies. It also has these beautiful rub-ons and this gorgeous cling stamp. So to build the foundation for this card, I am putting a full card front onto my sticky mat using a little bit of temporary adhesive to hold that closed while I stamp. And I'm using some granite ink with this beautiful sort of brocade style background stamp. So I'll check and make sure this is in the right orientation. And the great thing about these big clings is you can line them up with the grid on the sticky mat. This is my new favorite way to use these clings. So I'm using a swiping motion with my ink to get a little bit of a distressed look in the background. And I'm only going to stamp it one time because I want it pale and I want those little distress stripes to show up. So now I am done with the background. This is a beautiful ornate background, really pretty. It's going to be fun for using with the gel press. So I used my little hero scrubber block to clean that off. Unlike me, I know. And now I have the stamped and die cut vase that is going to be my focal point for what I'm calling curtain spotlighting. So I'm going to make it look like there are little curtains across this image. And to create this effect, you know I love the spotlighting technique. I've done it a lot in my videos, and there are a lot of different ways to do it. But I thought it would be fun to make it look like it was sort of sitting in a window and there were curtains. So I cut a strip of vellum. Oh, there's Splotchy's paw because he's around my neck. Cut a strip of vellum and use that to make lines for the spotlighted area on my image. I put the tape just inside those lines so that I could erase them before I started coloring, because coloring can trap that pencil mark underneath the ink, and then it can be harder to remove. So that's just my little pencil tip. Then I am going to color the area on the right and the left with a monochrome gray, but I will do some shading. So a lighter gray and a darker gray makes a big difference. And I'm just going to stick to the area outside of these two lines. So in addition to being underneath the vellum to create the spotlight with the colored area, they're also going to be monochrome with a little bit of shading. So it'll really look like you're sort of pulling the curtains to the colorful area of the card. Now I'm using the fine tip of my graphite marker in a darker gray to add the shading. And I just want to show you the difference between the left and right hand side and what a difference the shading makes even underneath the vellum. So look how dimensional that is on the right compared to how flat it is on the left hand side. So that's why I take the time to create that additional little detail with the darker gray marker. I think it makes a huge difference. So I am speeding this up. Obviously, I don't color this fast. I wish I could. My gosh, how much could I get done if I did? But it really doesn't take long to color this image anyway. One of the fun things about spotlighting images is you're really sort of containing the coloring and shading that you do to a very small area. So just the area with color, which takes a little bit more time, you can sort of shrink that down by doing a spotlighting technique. Now I wanted this to look, oh, I have a helper. Do y'all have a helper? Splotchy is so very helpful. He never edits my videos. He never edits my voiceovers. He actually doesn't contribute in a super impactful way to video production, but he's so cute and so curious that it's really hard to cut him out of my videos. So a lot of times I just don't. And today is one of those days. Now, one of the things that he really likes to do is to help me color by bumping his head against the end of my marker. This is not a technique so far. I could develop it into a technique, but so far it's not a technique. It's just something that he really enjoys doing, and he's going to keep doing it until I actually remove him from my desk. Now he's bumping his head into the camera, which adds like a very Hitchcock element to my videos, which may or may not be desirable. I don't know, but I do have to move him out of the way to keep going. So sorry about that little interlude. I'll go back to sped up coloring. Now, because this is a very intricate image, I find that the fine tip on the graphite markers works great in these small spaces. And what I'm trying to do is look across the image and find all flowers that have a similar look. So maybe they're the same variety of flowers, and I am coloring them the same color. So I have what looks like poppies, and I'm coloring them all in red. And then I'm coloring the foliage in kind of just a neutral olive green, and going all the way around the image to where I can find every instance of that. Now, in intricate images, I will say this never works the first time. So I go around, I'm like, I've gotten all the leaves. They're all green. And then when I'm finished coloring everything else, there are like 10 leaves that I missed. So I'm sure I'll be coming back and coloring some leaves. Then I have a neutral pale brown for these fluffy little, they look like the top of pampas grass. I don't know what they're actually called. Debbie Adams is probably just rolling her eyes at me right now, but I'm sure she knows the botanical name. But to me, they look like the top of the pampas grass, that fluffy white stuff that we used to have growing in our yard. So then I will add a little bit of yellow, but like I said, I am, with the exception of one color, keeping this pretty vintage and sort of muted. I want the vase, which is going to be blue, like a cobalt blue, to really pop. To me, it just looks like one of those arrangements that would be positioned in the foyer of a super dramatic Downton Abbey style dwelling, where you had someone who was hired to open the door, opening the door dramatically to a marble-clad foyer with a giant table whose only purpose was to house this ginormous flower arrangement. This is the kind of thing I start to imagine when I'm stamping. I can't help it. It's just where my mind goes. It just is what it is. Now, these little, are they lotus? I think they're lotus. Little brown things. I added a shadow with a black Sharpie to really accentuate the dimension of those, and I love the way that looks. So now you can see that that center section is the real highlight. The little sidebar parts are gray, and they'll also be doubly muted with my little curtains made out of vellum that I will put on the sides. But you can see how the shading on the gray part made such a big difference, because even through the vellum, which mutes it a little bit, you're still seeing that dimension and that sort of chiseled look that the darker parts give to this image. I think that's really, really pretty. And it's easy to line up your strip of vellum. This isn't actually vellum, by the way. It is Duralar, which is a vellum / Yupo substitute that I really like. It's priced right. It has a lot of things going for it, and I love the matte finish on it. So if you need to touch up where the lines were and make it a little bit straighter, which I did here, then feel free to do that. I am using my favorite vellum adhesive to tack this down. And then I'll just trim away any excess that I have on the card. This vellum adhesive is really pretty essential when you're using anything like this because it really does disappear. You can't see it at all. So then I have a second piece, same thing. I'll put just a tiny bit of this adhesive on there and then do my best to line up the Duralar on the straight line that I created with my coloring. I will trim that off, and then I added little dots of hero pearls to the finished product, which are also featured on this card. You can read more about this card and how I did this beautiful card with a wood-mounted rubber stamp on my blog today, as well as be entered in our giveaways. So head over to my blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.